Hello and welcome to this episode of the MS Finance podcast. Today we have two people who are involved in the MS Finance mentorship program, one as a mentor and one as a mentee. So we have Bipin and Madhu here. Could we do a round of introductions? Bipin will go first and then Madhu can introduce herself.
Perfect. Thank you, Rutvik. So my name is Bipin Alankar. To kind of provide you a brief background, I actually went to Indiana University to complete my Bachelor's of Science in Economics, and then once that was completed, I finished my Master's in Economics and Finance at the University of Texas at Dallas. So I actually graduated in 2013. From there on, I went on to be an analyst at a community bank as a credit analyst. And since I have graduated with my master's, which is over the last 12 years, I have been in commercial credit underwriting and portfolio management. And currently, I'm a senior credit officer at Bank of America here in Dallas.
Okay, I'll go next. So I did my undergrad at BITS Pilani in India. I did 2 degrees concurrently. I did a Master of Science in Maths and a Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering. So while I was there, I was able to take part in some finance projects, and that kind of sparked my interest in the field. So I then came to UTD in Jan of 2023 to pursue my master's in finance, and I graduated last May. And now I'm working as a financial analyst at Frontier Airlines, and I'm based out of Denver.
We are talking about the mentorship program. So I'll start with Bipin. So what motivated you to become a mentor? And once you did become a mentor, how do you select mentees? And in
Sure.
Madhu's particular case, because you were her mentor as well, what do you think were her strengths? What do you think were areas to be worked on? And all of that.
Sure. So, what motivated me to be a mentor is the fact that I didn't have a mentor when I was a student. so, uh, there were so many questions, right, that I wanted to know, but then, I didn't have anybody, specifically to go to because, at the end of the day, it takes a lot for somebody to volunteer to be a mentor because you're asking for somebody's valuable time and so when I was a student I kind of wanted a mentor but circumstances didn't you know put me in place to find a formal mentor so then I decided given any free time or any time that I can allocate towards this mentorship program. I wanted to inspire a student and hopefully provide some value in their professional journey or actually a student in their student journey. When it comes to Madhu, I think it's been just over a year. She was assigned to be a mentee. So as a mentor, we don't actually choose the mentees. It's a random selection. We are just told by the GFMC that, hey, here are your two mentees. So, you know, you just have to kind of coordinate with those mentees from there. I'll let Madhu kind of explain how that process works as a mentee from there. And but in reviewing Madhu's credentials and resume and kind of conducting the mock interview for her with her, I felt like her strengths were her ability to articulate during the interview process, and then when it comes to the resume, she was organized. In terms of outlining her projects and her skill sets and her prior experience. Where I felt that she may have needed some improvement was, on the resume. I felt like, she could have utilized the space a little bit more efficiently because at the end of the day, we all want everything to fit in that one page
Yes.
in these days, right? I kind of gave her some guidance as to what she can include and delete so it can be more efficient. And then in the interview, I felt like she was going a little faster. I think there was some sort of anxiety, right? We all have that. So I kind of recommended that she kind of let go of some of that anxiety and make it like a more you know free conversation. I think that would help. So yeah, I mean, she did great. I'm very happy to see her where she is. So that makes me feel happy. Yes.
Awesome.
I think from my end as like the mentee, getting the
Yeah.
mentor, what I remember is that we had to fill like a form based on the things we were like the roles we were interested in, the field we were interested in, and then we were allocated a mentor based on that. And I think like that was one really good thing about the GFMC program, where it just makes that mentorship experience like so much more valuable because you're kind of connecting with someone that's in the industry or role that you see yourself in the future. So that's yeah, pretty much how that was. Once we'd been assigned, like once I was assigned Bipin as my mentor, I sent out an email. We decided a good time for us to meet, and we had a virtual call where I think we did have an introductory call, and then we decided we were going to have like a resume review session and a mock interview. And so then we just kind of kept those days on our like we were like, okay, next month we're going to have the resume review, the month after that we're probably going to have the mock interview. And so that's kind of how that's how we went about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And based on that experience, how would you suggest a student prepare for a mentorship program? Do you have
That's
any
a good
tips?
question.
Yeah.
I would say I think be prepared to talk about like your experience and your resume, and make sure if you have any specific questions that you want to ask your mentor, whether it's about their role or anything, make sure you have your questions prepared in advance. That is one thing I'd suggest. I'd also suggest it's probably a good conversation if you kind of do a bit of background on your mentor as well. What is their background? Where do they work? What kind of role are they in? And maybe how that would align with you. I think that was something that students can prepare because I don't think it takes much time, but I think it's very valuable when you're having a conversation.
Yeah, just to kind of add on that, I think if I'm in the student's shoes, right, I would first figure out, okay, what are my goals, right? What do I want to achieve out of this program, right? You have to reflect on that quite a bit because uh, there is a specific purpose for this mentorship program. You have a very limited amount of meetings, right? So you want to achieve as much as possible in those couple of meetings that you are in. So you have to be very specific. Then having to try to have your mentor drive the entire thing, because the purpose of this entire program is actually for the benefit of primarily for the benefit of the student, as a mentee, right? So I would strongly encourage anybody to kind of figure out, okay, what do they want to achieve out of this mentorship program, and kind of drive it from there on their behalf.
Following on, so now we've gone through the phase of meeting a mentor for the first time, all of that. While you're in the mentorship program, and this question's for both of you, uh, what are some do's and don'ts? What are some best practices, and what are some things you need to avoid doing altogether?
Going back to Madhu's points, right? Little things, little etiquettes, they make a big difference in this entire thing. So, as a way of introduction, GFMC officers, they send out an email and they're very specific saying that, hey, you need to contact your mentor, try to set up these meetings and all that. That's a very important email that comes out. So as a student, as a mentee, you want to make sure that you initiate the follow-up with your mentor in trying to set up the meetings and kind of sending your resume, etc., based on the guidance from your mentor. Uh, the don't part is don't expect your mentor to reach out to you and kind of do that initiation. I think it's very beneficial for the student to kind of take initiate that approach as expected, right?
Yeah.
To kind of get together with your mentor and kind of maybe outline some of the goals in the email that you send out, and this is what I'm looking for. I kind of take those steps.
I would say one thing very important is be punctual. As someone is taking out their time after work to come, and it's like Bipin said, it's truly or primarily for your benefit. I would say just be super respectful of that. Like now that I've started working, I understand what kind of energy that requires. So thank you, Vipin. Like I'm like, I don't know how you have the energy after a super long work day to come and talk to me about how I can improve myself. So that is, I think, something super important. I think being open to feedback, because you're getting
Yeah.
feedback from someone who is in the industry and they probably have a good idea of what companies are looking for. So I would say that is one thing. I would also say make sure you're following through on commitments. Like, for example, Bipin had given some kind of advice on, okay, this is how you can change your resume, do these things. And I made it a point that I completed those tasks and I sent it to him for like, okay, is there any more feedback? Is this good? So I think that is super important. As for don'ts, I think tying back to what I said before, not showing up unprepared is, I think, like the worst thing you can do. It really comes off as if you're not interested in like growing or learning, and it can make the mentor feel like they're wasting their time, honestly. Just if the questions you have things that you need to complete, make sure everything's done before the meeting. I think also just being professional, make sure you're not unprofessional, because you are talking to someone in the industry and it's small things. Like I think it would give a really bad impression if I was just lying in bed and talking to Bipin about my career. I don't think that gives off the best impression. And also the way the conversation goes, make sure it's, I think, focused on your learning and your growth and how it can help you, and give updates on your progress. Like if something is taking longer, be like, okay, I've worked on this and this is what's left. I'm working on it. I've taken your advice into consideration. I think those kinds of things would be do's and don'ts for the mentorship program.
Yeah, very important point is, when the mentor, provides some guidance for the next meeting, and then, has some, in this case, I've asked her to make some changes, right? Any sort of things like that, right? The mentee should make sure that, okay, I worked on it. This is how I've changed it. That communication flow has to be, continued, whether it's for the next meeting or even in the email in between those meetings. So.
And Bipin, just out of curiosity, has there been any behavior from mentees, doesn't have to be Madhu, that has really annoyed you or something like, why am I
I
doing
hope
this for
not.
this person?
No, no. At the end of the day, you kind of have to remember, going back to my earlier point, that somebody is taking the time out of their way, or out of their day, um, and is willing to provide you some guidance, right? So you have to take that very seriously. And then, as far as you know, I wouldn't say annoy me, but I kind of felt there were some instances where it was unprofessional, where once the GFMC email came out, I did not even get that email. I had to initiate, go out and say, hey, by the way, are you interested, etc., and kind of take it from there. So that's one thing that I don't look forward to in this mentorship program.
And Madhu, so you had Bipin as a mentor, did the introductions. He was your mentor for a whole semester, is what I'm assuming. Uh, what do you think were the right questions to ask?
So I think, again, I think a lot of this is just, my key point here is going to be like you take the insight that you're getting. So I think one important question, which I believe I did ask Bipin, was what skills are most relevant right now in the market? And is there anything he'd recommend for me to upskill, or anything he'd recommend for me to learn so that I become more valuable in the market? And again, tying to the feedback, where am I doing well? Where can I improve? I think those are like the key questions that everyone needs to be asking that mentor. Obviously, if you're like super interested in that mentor's like role or industry, that's like a whole separate thing. But I think those three questions are like the standard three that everyone should ask their mentor.
I think, it becomes a lot easier in framing those questions when you kind of know where you want to head,
Mm-hmm.
with your, with respect to, it could be with your courses or the concentration that you pick, or, what you want to do eventually once you get out, with your finance degree in this case. So I think, it doesn't necessarily have to be extremely specific. Also, I kind of want to make it sound like there should be some sort of a balance.
Yeah.
Not knowing at all, is also not advisable versus having no idea in some cases. So you should have some sort of a balanced idea as to what you want to do. So I think that would be helpful in framing those questions.
So could you give us an example of a bad question? Something that could be asked but
A bad
shouldn't be.
question. I wouldn't say it is a bad question. A, I felt like questions should not be framed very specific to a project that you're working on, in trying to gain some sort of an answer from you. Because I feel like, because at the end of the day, um, the purpose is much more bigger than that. You cannot be you cannot be asking your mentor a specific question about your project, uh, because I think you should do the project as a student, not. I don't think there should be a mentor's
Yeah.
involvement in a very specific project. So
With the mentorship program as a whole, are there any misconceptions or like people go into a mentorship program for, but that really isn't the point of this? And to give more clarity of those misconceptions, what is the actual point of this program?
I'll let Madhu kind of answer this, but I don't think there is any sort of confusion or ambiguity surrounding the purpose of this program. At least that's kind of the understanding that I have. I have a very clear understanding of how this program should be run from a mentor's point of view. And I think majority of the mentees have the same understanding as to what the expectations are, based on my own experience. So I'll let Madhu add from there.
I agree. I think most people have the correct notion of what this is for. But I think a misconception that some people have is that this is a direct path to getting a referral. That is, I think it's the worst mistake that someone in a mentorship program can make. I think when you have the access to someone's insight like this, trying to just make it the referral as the goal, it's very easy to suss out. I think it gives a very bad impression of you to your mentor. And they probably, even if they were willing to help you, may not be willing to help you in that sense after that. So I think that is probably the biggest misconception. But from what I know, most people are not like that. But there are the select few that can use it to this kind of advantage. So
Yeah, I think to add to that, there is nothing wrong with expecting somebody's, help to an extent in trying to help you find a job. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think nobody should be taking for granted the fact that, okay, I'm in a mentorship program, therefore please, help me find a job. Here's my resume, help me out. That kind of an attitude, I don't think is very beneficial. So.
And yeah, again, just for clarity, what are the correct expectations to have of a mentorship program for someone who knows nothing about it?
I think at the end of the day, just know the purpose. One thing you have to really understand, right, is JSOM or GFMC is, putting forth a very important platform, a very serious platform to connect the students with the mentors. I think it's a privilege, right, for going to one of the finest institutions. So I think first thing is you have to realize that, and then the next thing is you have to kind of come up with a plan as to how do you want to leverage this very important program through your mentor. Again, as I said, majority of it is more driven towards the mentee. So they should have, a very detailed, at least have some sort of an idea as to what they want to get out of it and what kind of value they want to get out of the mentor. I think that should be the ultimate goal for the mentee, in my opinion.
Madhu, as a mentee, did the mentorship program change your outlook towards the way you apply to jobs? And if yes, how did it do that?
So I think after the mentorship program, I had a better idea of what I needed to be highlighting when I was applying and in the interviews themselves. I think before I had like my meetings with Bipin, I was putting experience that was probably irrelevant because I thought that held more weight than finance related projects, like academic projects. But after I spoke to Bipin, I think I realized that the person who's looking at my resume only really cares about what I've done in finance. They don't care what I've done in any other field. So I think tweaking my resume like that. I also think it helped me with my job search because I was able to practice interviewing questions as part of that mock interview session. He highlighted where I can improve, where I need to, what I am doing well. As Vivek mentioned, I am someone that I get a little nervous before my interviews. So that practice session honestly really helped because my first job interview was not the first time I was answering these questions. So that helped in like alleviating all those nerves, and it just helped me be a bit more confident when I was answering.
Awesome. And why do you think it was important to be a part of the program? And yeah, I think you already answered how it helped.
Yep. So I think just having someone who's in the industry look at how you come across to the market, it's so helpful. You can readjust your expectations, you can figure out where you need to improve. It makes you better equipped on the market as well. So I think this program provides a lot of insight in ways that you can't get it any other kind of way. So I think that's why it's just super important to like if you get the opportunity, just be a part of it.
Yeah, I don't recall having this program back in my days. So I I would encourage any student to take advantage of this mentorship program, whether it is in JSOM or College of Engineering or whichever school that you're attending. So
And Bipin, what ideally do you want your mentees to take away from the mentorship program when they're talking to you?
right. So the most important thing that I would like them to kind of take away is they need to step back after the program and kind of question themselves. What was it like, whether it's your resume or whether it is your interviewing skills or whatever guidance that you may have gotten, right? What was it like before? And what kind of valuable insight or guidance my mentor has provided me, and kind of set a path, based on the guidance. Okay, now what? How am I going to use all the guidance that I've received and leverage it and be successful in finding that next job, or getting into the next semester's courses, because the mentorship program is not only all about talking about how to go get that next job, right? It's also about providing guidance on the type of coursework or the type of concentration that you might want to choose. So we do have that type of conversation in the mentorship program. So at the end of the day, I feel like the student should reflect on that, from that sense, in terms of what kind of value they have received by being part of the mentorship program.
And Madhu, so you recently got a job in the last few months. Uh, Looking back at that moment, how do you think the mentorship program helped? Was it like a specific thing that really helped to get that job?
Definitely. I think so. The two major components of this, which was the resume review and the mock interview, both were like instrumental in helping me land my job. Obviously, resume review, now my resume was better equipped to land a role, even if like an entry level role in finance, where it was not before I met with Bipin. So I think that was obviously, the biggest thing. That's how you first get your foot in the door. The mock interview experience, like I mentioned, it for me, especially like it to have kind of that like test run was very helpful because then like as you start doing more and more, it helps you get a little more confident. So I think that test run that I had with Bipin, where I was asked questions that I knew that any kind of finance role, those are the questions I would be asked. So just getting the experience to do that, I think combined, it was like the reason that I ended up getting my job.
So maybe this would help with with answering your question in more detail, right? So, for example, with her resume, as I mentioned, it was very organized, and she kind of hit the main points. But then I remember asking her to make the one of the significant changes was, okay, I do see that you're mentioning about your projects, but they're more facts, right? I did
Mhm.
this, I did this, I did this. So my recommendation was you need to kind of take it a step further and try to explain, okay, I understand you're saying what is it that you're doing, but then how did you do it? And then, what is it that you were trying to achieve? Kind of hit those three different components of a specific project in 3 to 4 bullet points. So that was a guidance that I recall, which I'm hoping has helped in at least getting her resume be looked at, by a recruiter, and now, help her where she is right now, right? Same thing with mock interview. I remember, kind of questioning her about, how all the financial statements are related. That was an important question. And that's something, that I gave as a feedback for her to kind of, sharpen her skills on and everything. So there were questions here and there specifically related to finance, but overall she did well. So.
And just to wrap this all up, what are some tips you have for current students who are currently looking for a job? Do you have any specific advice to people? Both.
Mother, I'll let you take it first because you just got a job, right? So I think it's more
Yeah, I'm
valuable.
fresh.
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
fresh, I know. So I would say definitely for current students, get involved in as many on-campus activities as you can. I think that is so important. I think one, it helps you grow your network, and two, it's also a great discussion point in interviews. So I specifically worked at both the finance lab and I was a GFMC officer for the semester, and through that, I got to meet so many different people, like peers and also like UTD alumni, professionals. And so I think it's such a great experience. I would also say make sure you get your resume reviewed as much as you can by as many people as you can. Your mentor or professors you have a good relationship with, even friends, like just try to get as many people as you can to see your resume. I would also say be organized and consistent. Consistency is key. It's a tough market. You need to keep trying and not giving up. I would say like keep an Excel tracker of the jobs you've applied to, the link to the posting, who you've reached out to, and those kinds of things. And I think one very big one is make sure you take breaks as well. It is a full-time job to search for a job. And so you need to take breaks, give yourself that time to like recuperate because it will just eat you up if you just try to keep going at it 24/7 without a break. It's just you're gonna burn out. You're not gonna be able to keep it up. So I think those are the main points from my very recent experience of trying to find a job. But yeah, that's the main ones I think.
So I would say, going back to Madhu's point, it's a very competitive market. It's not only for students, but also other professionals, given the uncertainties that we have surrounding, the current economy and tariffs and all that, going on, right? Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think uh, corporations, whether it's in, finance or any other industries, um, there is a lot of holdback that's happening in terms of investing capital, right? So that could lead to maybe, the hiring, the number of, hiring a number of employees to kind of scale back, et cetera, right? So I think um, the most important thing that you have to have in your mind at this point is to be patient. That's number one. Number two is you should be flexible in terms of the type of skill set that you can offer. You may have learned, you something specific by going through the college, especially through a specific concentration that you pick, right? But then maybe try to learn, additional skills which may be important. So, for example, if you were in financial management track, then you could always look into learning something very specific to investment banking, just in case you do end up with a position that's specifically in investment banking, and your track may not have been that in college, right? And then the third skill set I think would be important is your communication. You have to make sure that in this environment, especially within the companies, it's very important to be very, have open communication, and then be very specific in the work that you do. So you have to demonstrate that. So yeah, I mean, that would be my advice. Again, be open. And also, I think you should leverage your LinkedIn as much as possible. Um, I mean, I do see, the requests that I get, on LinkedIn, and then, the messages and everything. But then you go and look at their LinkedIn, there's hardly anything there, right? I think it's very important that even as a student, you can reflect so much of your project work and about yourself on LinkedIn, because whether you're applying for a job or whether you are seeking some sort of a guidance, with somebody that you may not have met, right? That's a platform for you to showcase about your skills. Why should they talk to you, right? Why should they try to give you any guidance if they really don't know you? So I think having a detailed LinkedIn profile would also help in this environment when you're searching for a job.
If you guys have any closing thoughts, say something that I may have missed asking about, you can go for it.
No, I think Rutvik did a great job of covering, I think, the most important aspects of this. I just think this program is very, very, very important. I think it should continue as long as it can. I think students should definitely um, make the most of that opportunity that you're getting. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And hang in there.
As I said, the first thing is to realize the importance of JSON, right? And trying to have their students connect with their mentors, and in having the mentors try to teach something or provide some guidance, right? So that's the most important thing for any mentees to remember. And just come prepared, and leverage your mentor, because they have been in the industry for however long they have been, right? It's a very important decision from their end also to volunteer and try to be a resource to you. That's a very big thing in my opinion. As a professional, I will accept that I don't have a mentor. I'm still trying to search for a formal mentor, whether it is through programs offered at my employer, or maybe some other third party. So when you are being given an opportunity through this platform, I think you have to make the most use of it. So that's kind of what my take is on this entire program.
Awesome. Then thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure speaking to both of you, and I hope you had a good experience with the mentorship program.
Of course. Thank you, Ruthik. Thank you so much for putting this together, and my sincere appreciation to JSOM and Graduate Finance Management Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.